Two things I don't like about baseball in the 1970s was that iconic idiot Earl Weaver, who once cost the Orioles probably the 77 pennant because he freaked out about a tarp at Exhibition Stadium in a game against the Blue Jays. And Tommy Lasorda, who later on got Yuppie kicked out of an Expo game because he was playing kind of himself, going to bed and waiting to sleep after a late inning game. He got him kicked out. But why I like Dave Kingman, he almost drove Tommy Lasorda to a nervous breakdown for an interesting game when he was with the Cubs in the late 70s, early 80s. So today we've done different stories about Dave Kingman, and I want to specifically talk about his time with the Cubs. People criticize me saying that he should be in a Baseball Hall of Fame. Well, let's look at this. Yes, he struck out a lot. Yes, he had a low percentage. And yes, not the best skilled player in the field, but he sold tickets like you wouldn't believe. Now, according to published statistics, after Kingman signed as a free agent with the Cubs on November 30th, 77, it was because he wanted to stay with the Yankees, who denied his request for a no-trade clause and offered him $1.25 million with the expectation that no other team would pay him more money. Now, Kingman eventually signed a $1.375 contract, which included a $225,000 annual salary with the Cubs, a $250,000 bonus, and an additional $50,000 in a year the Cubs reached a $1.6 million mark in home attendance. And again, he sold tickets like crazy. Now, in 78, his first year with Chicago, he had 266 with 28 home runs and 78 RBIs in 119 contests with the Cubs. As big as a draw at home, he was a big draw on the road. His appearances at Olympic Stadium were the story of legends because in Canada, Kingman, who stood 6'6", was probably just as big with the Expo fans like any other Montreal Expo were. He was so well respected because his time with the Mets and Yankees drew him as sort of a household name within French Canada. Now, Kingman's excellent performance on May 14, 78 almost caused Tommy Lasorda to take a mental hernia. He hit 3 home runs that game against the Dodgers, including a 3-run shot in the top of the 15th that gave Chicago a 10-7 victory. 8 of the Cubs' 10 runs were driven in by Kingman. Now, following the contest, radio reporter Paul Olden asked Dodgers manager Tommy Lasorda his opinion of Kingman's performance that day, inspiring a almost 2-minute diatribe, which is oft replayed and sometimes censored, of Sandy Lay's tirade. Lasorda never really respected any opponent. So Kingman, in a contest that almost would have knocked the Dodgers out of the playoffs, where later in the season, basically everybody in Canada was happy that Lasorda was shown the door by Kingman in this contest. Now, by the 1979 season, Kingman's average was up again. He batted .288 with a National League leading 48 home runs, as well as 115 runs batted in, which was second to Dave Winfield at 118 and 97 runs scored. He had 3 home runs in the game twice that season, both coming in Cubs losses. The first was a slugging duel with Mike Schmidt on May 17th at Wrigley Field, considered the greatest offensive game in baseball history. He had 3 home runs and drove in 6, while Schmidt had 2 in the contests, with Schmidt delivering second at the top of the 10th inning to give Philadelphia a hard-fought 23-22 victory. Kingman's 3rd home run during this game is likely the longest home run in his career and being believed to be the longest in the history of Wrigley Field. Now, I've seen distances between 550 and 580 feet. The video's out there, and you can look at it yourself. Now, there is a street called Kenmore Avenue that tees into Waveland Avenue behind left center field. Kenmore is lined with houses, and the ball Kingman launched landed on the 3rd porch roof on the east side of Kenmore, a shot estimated at 550 feet, but it could have went another 5 to 20 feet depending on the angle. Now, the second 3-run homer for Kingman that year came against the Mets on July 28th at Shea Stadium in a 6-4 loss to New York. Now, that season, his .613 slugging percentage in 79 was almost 50 points higher than that of the next closest National League competitor, which was Schmidt. He finished 11th in NL MVP balloting that year and led the league in strikeouts for the first time in his career with 131. Now, his stance at the plate was one that if you put anything in his wheelhouse, it was there. But he had very little respect by opponents. Now, in 1980, Kingman, in and according to published reports, whose personality former Mets teammate John Stearns, who couldn't hit a home run to save his life, had once compared to a tree trunk. But what a tree trunk. He dumped a bucket of ice water in Daily Herald and reporter Don Frisky's head late in spring training. Kingman regularly insisted he was most quoted, and he began appearing regularly in the Chicago Tribune as a nominal author of a column ghostwritten by Chicago Park District employee Gerald Pfeiffer. Mike Royko, then writing for the rival Chicago Sun-Times, parodied Kingman's column with a series using the byline Dave Ding Dong. Now, the Cubs held a Dave Kingman T-shirt day promotion in conjunction with its game with the Pirates on August 7th, but Kingman instead spent the afternoon at Navy Pier promoting Kawasaki jet skis at Chicago Fest. Now, this was a rough season for the big man. King Kong only played in 81 games in 1980, hitting .278 with 18 home runs and 57 RBIs. Now, the idea about Kingman, you wouldn't think in Chicago, I mean, New York's bad enough, but he didn't really understand what the media was so hard on him. Now, overall, in these 3 seasons with Chicago, he hit .278 with 94 home runs and 251 RBIs, despite the injury ladled late in the last season, with a .907 OPS in 345 games. Now, why did he leave the Cubs? Well, in January 1980, the Pace and Ayers sold the Mets franchise to the Doubleday Publishing Company for $21.1 million. Nelson Doubleday Jr. was named chairman of the board, while minority shareholder Fred Wilpon took the role of club president. Kingman was reacquired by the Mets from the Cubs for, get this, Steve Henderson, in cash on February 28, 81. In separate deals, the new organization also reacquired Barclay Staub, and 2 seasons later, Tom Seaver. Now, he played mostly first base on return and had a good season. He had 99 home runs that year, 99 RBIs that year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the idea about Kingman in the NL East, we talked about this. His years in the association really made our division much more popular than the NL East, because initially when the Mets joined the league in 1962, there was no Montreal Expos. So all these teams were coming in. Mike Schmidt was hitting a lot of home runs. Dave Parker was hitting a lot of home runs. The Mets had a good young core. The Cubs, again, with Kingman. It was the Cardinals as well, a strong team defensively and on the base paths. It was a pleasure to watch Dave Kingman in sometimes meaningless games against the NL East teams. You know what he's going to do. He's going to hit a home run. He's going to get at least 1 or 2 home runs. But his NL East years, I figured, ladies and gentlemen, he must have sold an extra 5 million tickets. Because on the road, if you do the rough numbers over those seasons, he was probably selling an extra 5,000 to 10,000 seats in Montreal. Because Montreal, especially at the Forum for hockey, they would go for certain games when it was key contests against Boston, when Bobby Orr was there, and later Esposito and Park, the Leafs, the Flyers with Bobby Clark. But to me, Dave Kingman well deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, because yes, he struck out a lot, but my God, what a talent that guy was. And you know something? Maybe that's the best he could have done if he wouldn't have had so much confidence in himself. But you look at Aaron Judge, okay? Some nights he looks like the old Dave Kingman. He was striking a lot out the last couple of seasons. I see Aaron Judge like Dave Kingman with a better swing and better at the plate. There is no difference, because you look at the size, you look at the stance, it's kind of scary. So every time Aaron Judge hits a home run, I think somewhere a Dave Kingman fan who just passed on gets his wings. Dave Kingman is a direct connection with Aaron Judge, and it's scary to say the Yankees should have kept him. The thing is, I think George Steinbrenner didn't really want to take a chance on Kingman. That's why he went hard for Reggie Jackson. And Reggie would have stayed with his initial plan to join Montreal. The whole NL East would have been completely different, because Kingman would have stayed. All those great games we saw in the NL East in the late 1970s would not have occurred, and all the memories. By the way, fuck Tommy Lasorda. I don't care if you're a Dodger fan or not. This guy, the way he's gone on over the years, I think he's the greatest manager of all time. Like, he was lucky to win against Oakland in '88. He was lucky to win in '81 because Monday got him there. I've never liked Tommy Lasorda, and that's kind of strange to say because he got his start pretty well in the minor leagues with Montreal. But like him and Earl Weaver, the egotism of these old-style coaches. Not once did Earl Weaver said thank you, Brooks Robinson, or whoever it was, on winning those titles, right? And the bad managing cost them a title in 79. And Lasorda's bad managing in 77 and 78 maybe cost them the title. The Yankees were beatable in both years. They weren't like overwhelming, right? And with all that pitching staff, and he still lost. 81, like I said, it was just Steinbrenner's team was tired of Jackson and Whitfield not doing enough, and Bob Watson could only carry them so far. So what do we learn by this? I don't like Earl Weaver and Tommy Lasorda, who I've done different podcasts, and Dave Kingman. Imagine if it would have been a Montreal Expo, my head would have exploded. He could have hit 50 home runs at Olympic Stadium. That short, right field perch there, maybe backed up by Gary Carter, batting third, him batting fourth. Somebody could get on like Tim Raines, could have had 150 RBIs. By the way, we're in a magic year for baseball comparable to 1977, or what they call the Kingman era. Please enjoy it with Ohtani and, Guerrero getting 200 hits, and Aaron Judge is just tremendous. But Dave Kingman, if I had a vote, I'd vote for him twice in the Hall of Fame. Whether you like it or not. By the way, if you disagree with me, Dave Kingman getting the Hall of Fame, please remove yourself from the channel. I don't want people that look at analytics to determine somebody in the Hall of Fame. Dave Kingman was a top 10 player of the 1970s who should be in the Hall of Fame, and that success lasted 80. Let's say from 1973 to 1986, he's a top 10 player in baseball, in my personal opinion, so therefore he should be in the Hall of Fame. Enough said, end of argument. Have a good evening. Don't forget, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share.